I, Radhika Dhanuka, Managing Committee Member of Ahmedabad branch of Vikasa, welcomes you all to the sixth session of Swadhyay. Swadhyay is a platform where student will be the speaker and will be explaining us a topic which is related to a CA curriculum and will be having a mentor with us to guide us. So student is the speaker and students are the listener. A very warm welcome to all of you for joining today's session. Now, I would request Siddharth sir to please play the ICI motto song. Jay, can you play the ICI Moto song?
Sir will be playing. Just wait a minute. He's trying, I guess.
Okay.
Let me ask.
हाँ हाँ
Yes,
yes.
already started.
य एष सुप्तेषु जागृति य एष सुप्तेषु जागृति कामं 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 कामपुरुषो पुरुषो निर्मिमाणः निर्मिमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तद्ब्रह्मा तद्ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनात्यपि कश्चन एतद्द्वैता 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 एतद्द्वैता
Thank you. Now I would request Jai Prakash Motwani, the Vice Chairman of Ahmedabad branch of Vikasa, to give the welcome address.
Thank you, Radhika. I'm audible to all of you.
Yes, you are audible, Jai.
Yes, good evening, one and all. So, we are running with this two series, with namely Swadhyay and Paramash, wherein we focus on personal and professional development of the students, right? So आज एक वही वापस से शाम है जिसका मैं हर रोज इंतजार हर रोज मतलब इसी का इंतजार होता है कि कब 4 बजे स्वाध्याय स्टार्ट हो, क्योंकि हर एक सीए स्टूडेंट में जैसे अपना एक आईसीआई मोटो या हमको ऐसा बोलता है कि हम वो लोग हैं जो जागते हैं जब लोग सोते हैं, राइट? सो टुडे वी आर प्रूविंग दिस लाइन अवर आईसीआई मोटो। और ये एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म है, जैसे राधिका ने बोला, कि जहाँ स्टूडेंट ही बोलता है उन टॉपिक्स के बारे में, और जहाँ उसको मेंटर किया जाता है स्टूडेंट को कि वो कैसे एक टॉपिक को प्रेजेंट कर सकता है, राइट? और सिमिलरली परामर्श भी ऐसा सीरीज है जहाँ स्टूडेंट्स को सीए स्टूडेंट्स को और कहीं कुछ ना सीखने मिलता हो, वो यहाँ आके वो लोग सीख सकते हैं, वो ट्राई कर सकते हैं। जैसे आज चेल्सी है, चेल्सी को मैं पर्सनली जानता हूँ, मेरी दोस्त है चेल्सी। वेरी बेस्ट ऑफ लक एंड आई एम रियली प्राउड ऑफ यू टुडे सीइंग हियर। तो दिस इज रियली ग्रेट कि अपने ही दोस्तों को आके ऐसे आगे बढ़ते हुए देखना। और जितने भी लोग आई गेस 20 पार्टिसिपेंट्स है, कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशन चेल्सी। तो जितने भी 20 पार्टिसिपेंट्स है, मैं रियली ये चाहता हूँ, मैं देखना चाहता हूँ कि जितने भी लोग अभी वीडियो बंद करके बैठे हैं, वो वीडियो चालू करके अगली बार अगले संडे से कोई ना कोई टॉपिक पे प्रेजेंट करो, किसी ना किसी, जैसे हाँ मैं हूँ, या जैसे राधिका है, जैसे चेल्सी है, जैसे बाकी सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स है, किसी ना किसी को कुछ ना कुछ यूनिक चीजें होती है जो वो सिखा सकते हैं दूसरे लोगों को। तो आपको जब अपॉर्चुनिटी मिल रही है, आपको जब स्टेज मिल रहा है, तो व्हाई डोंट यू ट्राई? आपको पूरा सपोर्ट दिया जाता है इस स्वाध्याय के मीडियम से कि आपको एक मेंटर मिले, आपको एक पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक पे पूरा गाइडेंस मिले और आप वो प्रेजेंट कैसे करें, राइट? सो चेल्सी, आई वेलकम यू एंड आई ऑल्सो वेलकम टुडेज मेंटर Sagar Shah sir, if he's here. Sagar Shah sir, are you here?
Jai, he will be joining in after some time. He's on the way actually.
Okay, so I also welcome him before he joins, and I also welcome Chelsea Shah. I welcome Radhika Danuk, and I would also like to thank branch chairman Fanil Shah sir and Vikasa chairperson Anjali ma'am to support us, to motivate us to continue with this type of programs and series, right? And Chelsea, best of luck. And I also welcome, most importantly, Chelsea, I also welcome the participants. This 19 participants except you, बिकॉज तुम लोग ही हो जो मेन इस प्रोग्राम में, तुम लोग ही एक मेन हो, ठीक है? तो थैंक यू सो मच, एंजॉय द सेशन, बेस्ट ऑफ लक चेल्सी। यस राधिका, ओवर टू यू।
Thank you so much, Jai Prakash Madhwani. Now I would request Divya Jain, the managing committee member of Ahmedabad branch of Vikasa, to introduce the mentor for today's session, C.S. Sagar Shah sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sagar Shah sir is a CA and CS and has been an All India rank holder in CA examination. He has an extensive experience of working in EY for 9 years and has served large Indian and foreign MNCs in their international tax, transfer pricing, tax restructuring, and FEMA regulation manner. core experience includes advisory and compliance management, advising on tax efficient planning for inbound and outbound transactions, advising NRIs and foreign companies for direct tax and FEMA implication and compliances, litigation management and representing of case before CIT appeal and ITAT, wealth management, succession planning, business and management consultancy, startup advisory. Recently, he has also cleared exam of registered valuation of IBBI and registered investment advisor of SEBI. Currently, capitalizing 9 years of experience, he recently has started his consultancy firm in the niche area of PP, international tax, valuation, wealth management, and FEMA. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Divya. Now I would request you to also introduce the speaker for today's session, Miss Chelsea Shah.
Yes. Chelsea Shah is a CA final student and public speaker who consistently believes in improving herself to best and do the best. She has passion for areas like economics, online business development, and research on commerce. She is working at the project Parvaz, which provides the solution to the woman for the mental health problem. It is a way smaller contribution from her side towards society. Apart from this, she has a deep passion for sketching, doodling, photography, reading, debating, yoga, and meditation, and creating something unique in her own way. She strongly believes that one should never limit his challenges, rather, one must challenge their limits. She is doing his articleship with Chike Choksi and Company in Tax Department. All the best, Chelsea.
Thank you so much, Divya Jain. It was such a wonderful introduction of both the mentor and speaker. Now I would request Chelsea Star to begin the session. Over to you, Chelsea.
Thank you so much. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Thank you, Divya. Thank you, Radhika, and thank you, Jay, for that I'm collaborating with ICI. Means I'm speaking something and I'm presenting myself. Hope you all like it. Let me start with my session. Everyone is able to see my screen?
Chelsea.
Radhika, is it audible?
Yes, it's audible and we are able to see your screen.
Okay, great. Just a minute. Could do anything. Yeah. So my today's topic is how taxation and international taxation can help in the revival of the economy. So basically, someone might be thinking that at this point of time, how can I think upon all this thing? Means ये सब तो काम किसका रहता है? तो policy makers का रहता है. Means the one who are making policies, the economists, the one who has done the PhD or something like that. I'm no one to tell anything about that, but it's just like my experience of what I've studied, what I've done, and what I've observed in the society. On the basis of that, only my presentation will be going on. So they are just like the minute observations which I'm doing around the societies, that how we can just by a small step, how we can help in the revival of the economy. So what do you mean by the taxation? Taxation is the means by which government or the taxing authority imposes or levies a tax on its citizens and the business entities. Here, please focus on the words like levies tax on its citizens. Are we truly having that citizens? Are India having the citizens who are really paying the taxes? And business entities, are all business entities are paying proper taxes? The question is big. And from income tax to GST, or at every level, taxation is there. Now there are two categories of tax structure. First, direct tax. Second one is indirect tax. Direct tax. It is defined as the tax imposed directly on the taxpayer. It is required to be paid to the government. It means that direct tax means the thing which is tax is imposed, and it is directly paid to the government. Also, individual cannot pass or assign another person to pay the taxes on his behalf. Means we just can't force anyone to like, yeah, you pay from our side or something like that. You might be thinking that these are the basic things which I'm telling you, but I guess there are certain minute details upon which, means there is a definition which I've picked up from the Google only, but from these definitions only there is a deep meaning inside that. So let's analyze about direct tax. It is imposed directly. It is imposed directly. ये तो definition में लिखा हुआ है. But are we really paying that? It is required to pay to the government. Are we paying to the government, or we are liable to pay to the government? But are we doing that? We cannot pass that. Yeah, we cannot pass that. That's why we just have that. We just we just get exempt from that taxes, or we are doing that tax ka chori and all. Then second one is indirect tax. It is defined as the tax levied not on the income, profit or revenue, but on the goods and services. It simply means indirect tax means all the taxes which are levied on the goods and services. Like now means we are having GST right now, so it is there. Now I will be telling about what are the reforms or how we can revive our economy. Means how we can boost our economy first of all. So basically from the independence time, it means we have seen that agriculture sector is always at the boost. Means during independence time, more than 70 to 75% population was in the agriculture sector. Now in the present, 60% of the population works for the agriculture sectors. Then also they only contribute to the 18% of the GDP. My only question is, are all the population in the agriculture sector, or all the workers in the agriculture sector, are they so poor that they can't even contribute 1 rupee to the society? Or are they that much of poor that they are not earning basic basic exemption limit, that is 2,50,000? I guess anyone can give me the answer. Hello? Anyone is there? I repeat, are we are that much of poor that the agriculture sector is India is that much of the poor, or India's agriculture sector is that much poor that they can't even pay a single penny or contribute to the GDP by paying tax?
Chelsea, shall I answer?
Yeah, Radhika.
I don't think so. They are very poor, because there are two types of farmers: small and marginal farmers, and there are also big farmers. So I guess big farmers should pay the taxes. Even the small farmers, because they are just having small land holdings, they cannot pay the taxes that much. But the large farmers who are having so much of land of area, so I think they can contribute somewhat to the GDP, because agricultural income plays a major role. So why don't they pay taxes according to my circumstances?
Yeah, very true. Thank you, Radhika. It's very true. There are many farmers. They are earning so much, but they are just availing that exemption. Means we have portrayed agriculture sector as some like bichara kind of. Means they are not that much of like, they have income, they are earning very much. In fact, if I should give you one example, in the state of Punjab, there is like people are roaming in and around in the Range Rovers, then Jaguar and all. Means if I'm paying the tax, I'm not capable of buying that Jaguar. But they are agriculture, they are earning income from the agriculture sector only. Then also they are roaming in the Jaguars and all, and they are not eligible for paying the tax, or they are exempted from the tax. So is this what we should do? Means it's like, I'm not saying that each and everyone should be paying the tax, but it's like there should be certain threshold limit. Like if you are earning above 10 lakh rupees through agriculture sector, then please pay the tax. or you are earning something above that, or means something about threshold limit, or something by we can define it by the hectares or something like that. If you are having a 2 hectares of land, then please pay the tax. Means government should introduce that. Agriculture sector is our biggest, means पूरा एक 100% होता है, उसमें से 60% यानी more than half is covered by the agriculture sectors only. Then also they are not paying the tax, and whole burden is shifted to the industry sectors and the service sectors. So the thing is, the one step should be like government should decide upon this, or we as means we should, there should be certain laws or certain policies should be introduced wherein we are giving, means we are just making them eligible for paying the tax. Then the second point comes to the real estate. Real estate industry was before. Okay, so real estate industry before 5 to 6 years, there was nothing like, there was not so much of boost in the real estate. Or maybe I say in the Ahmedabad, before metro cities and all started, means metro construction started, before India got the loan from the Japan, real estate was at somewhere in and around. Means there were only certain specific areas only which were having that. But everyone is, real estate was not at the boost. But now a time during COVID, see the need that yeah, real estate can be at the boost if government supports little. It's like, what I mean to say is, when in the pandemic, let me just give you an example. India, India is somewhere or the other. We have ethics, we have the values, we have the culture in ourselves. We as the Indians, we always believe in the joint family. Or we means if we are having a 2 BHK of the house or the 3 BHK of the house, what we do? At the end, we all family members are sleeping at one room, or means having a, or having lunch at the one place, or having lunch at the one place or something like that. So it's like that, yeah, there is like a joint family culture, something like that. But due to COVID, when everyone started by doing the online work and everything like that, so we also now want the workspace. Means in a house only, we want like a refurbished house, we want workspaces allotted, because we don't know for how many times we are going to have this online wala thing. So it's like we require certain space. So now a time residential areas are at the boost. Means people are demanding for the residential areas. But what happens is, if I am going to buy a house of 50 lakh rupees, almost on and around above that, I need to pay 12 lakh of taxes. Why should I pay? If I'm means the real value of the house is 50 lakh only, but above all that registration tax, municipality tax, and all that taxes, maybe they will be costing me additional 10 to 12 lakh. In that, I can purchase one car also. So why should I, means I just neglect myself, means I can just stop myself, I will postpone my need of buying the house. Although I need at the most, but I will postpone, and my consumption will be like somewhere or the other lower. So there is the thing. Now there is another scenario of US and all. So what happens in US? People are generally renting, means they are just having their rented house. They have the rented house, and what they do is they just pay for that. Means if they means whatever house they want, whatever design they want, or something like that. What happens is they just pay for that amount, and another amount they just think that why should I just have investment in such large thing? Means there is a bulk investment now, why should I have that? So what they do is they just have buy the rented house, or they just pay rent. So in India also, rental laws should be developed. People should be encouraged to like go buy house, go and buy house. Or if you are not able to buy houses, then what you can do is you can just have the rented houses now. Means you are getting all the facilities, your consumption will be increases. It's not only about house. Let me just clear you one thing. It's not about house. What happens is, if we are purchasing from the 2 BHK house, if I'm shifting to the 3 BHK house, what happens? Electricity bill will now increase. My facilities will now increase. My consumption will also increase. So this all will help. Means this all will have a little impact on the GDP. If government policies are becoming like that, means if they are also giving the rental laws some credit, means they are just developing rental laws. Now you might question me that what kind of rental laws should be developed. So in my suggestion, if any builder now time in Bhopal and all, very new buildings in Bhopal, Gota, this now Shantigram areas and all, there are many new buildings are developed. Why don't you just tell to the builders that instead of like selling them off permanently for first 5 years or first 10 years, give them on the rental basis. Give them on the rental basis. So what will happen? There will be a benefit of builders also. They will be getting they will be getting a fixed income of rent for 5 to 10 years, and after that they can sell to them. And the people, now what will be the benefit of the people? The people will be benefit like that. Now they can just enjoy that luxury which they might not afford that. Means there are certain people, they want luxury but they can't afford to invest 1 crore or 50 lakh 1 crore, something like that. So they will be enjoying the luxury also, and plus what will happen, that builders is also earning certain fixed income. So for, if builder is doing something like that, then government must give them some incentives so that they are motivated to do like that. So I guess you are getting my point what I'm trying to say. If there is certain participation, then it would be like something interesting. Otherwise it's like just I'm speaking on. Okay, no one. Okay. Yeah, so it's like that. And the another point is mindset should be changed. Mindset should be changed in the way that wherein people are thinking that we should only purchase the house or we shouldn't go for that rented house and all. The mindset should be changed, and they should be also given the incentives by way of like, you just buy, means you just have that rented house, and against that you, means whatever you are, government will be giving you the incentives for that, or they might give you some exemptions from that. And another thing is, if you are just buying that rented house, you can just divert your income to like capital funds. You can have means they can prompt to invest in the mutual funds, in the share market or something like that. So by that way, our capital industry will also grow, and what will happen? Our means real estate is also having some growth. Okay, so yeah, moving forward, automobile industry. Automobile industries is like they're having a good, means what happened in the automobile industry due to COVID and all. This is only industry which is not harm. Which one? Automobile. But who is not? Means Maruti, Suzuki and all their sales are decreasing, but BMW, Jaguar sale is increase. It's totally opposite. Rich men are buying that, means they are just fulfilling their desires. So now just not seeing that rich people, now let's come on to the middle class man, means middle class. So what happened? What they do is, what happens in the automobile industry, whenever I'm going to, means for example, I'm in the need of the car, I want to purchase that. I'm going to the showroom. I've just selected one car of the Maruti Suzuki. So I've purchased, means the car is valued of or worth of rupees 10 lakh. But what happens? There are another taxes like GST, RTO tax, compensation cess, road tax, registration fees. अगर ये सबका combined हो जाता है तो somewhere or other I need to pay something around 2 to 3 lakh of extra tax. So what happens is, instead of my car is worth of 10 lakh rupees, I'm paying 12 to 13 lakh rupees for that. And another maintenance cost, and is they are just like mandatory, or they are, means they are just coming with them, supplementary to all that or complementary to all that. Yeah, so it's like that. So in automobile industry also, the government, means there should be certain policies should be introduced wherein they are just relaxing certain amount, or they are just relaxing certain fees, so that automobile industries also get the boost. Automobile industry should also get the boost, because what happens, the consumption is not happening. People who are buying the cars, they might buy like a second-handed car or something like that. There is a one ratio where one study where it has been seen that nowadays what happens is the only people who are buying cars is like upper middle class and the rich class. So you might be thinking, yeah, what's new in that? Obviously, poor people are not gonna buy the car. Yeah, I'm getting that point. But car is like also normal vehicle now. Car can be a vehicle also. Car is a vehicle only. If I can purchase a two-wheelers and I'm purchasing a car, the source is, I'm not saying that who is buying the car or something like that. The thing is, there are certain taxes which are just like double taxation is somewhere or the other happening. Although they are denying that we are not having the double taxation policy, yeah, somewhere or the other this thing is happening, because by charging so many taxes, are they necessary? Are all the taxes necessary? मीन्स यही क्या एक लास्ट तरीका या एक ऑप्शन है जिससे आप है ना टैक्स वसूल सको सिटीजन से? इट्स लाइक जीएसटी, आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड. There are so many taxes now. Reduce something. Okay. Now new mechanism means, here I'm talking about new mechanism means, if you have listened to the budget 2020, there is a reduction in the corporate tax. Can anyone tell me what was the reduction?
22% from 30%.
And effectively?
Effectively, I don't know. That is all after without exemptions.
Yeah, so effectively, somewhere or the other, corporate tax will be now 25.87%. Good, Jay. Yeah, okay, so it's there. So basically, why India reduced the tax? Corporate tax. It's not only that India is reducing the corporate tax, it's like that in USA also, in USA, Indonesia, they also reduce the taxes, and they have just seen that there is a boost in the economy. So what India has also done, India has also followed their economy structure. It happens just like that. Okay. So what happened with the USA one? So I will just share you example of that. What happened with the USA? USA just reduced his country's tax, corporate tax by 5 to 7%. Okay. So it happened like that. They have seen the means like boost, industries got the boost, they get motivation and all. And contradictorily happens in India. Whenever in India corporate tax exemptions are given, what happened is, what they do is, if they whatever they are having their tax saving by way of like reduction of the tax, they just put that side. Means they just don't boost in the investment. They don't do investment. What they do is, companies are just saving that, and they are just distributing to the almost to the society or in the people or to the shareholders by way of dividends, or means they are just having retained earnings, or just changing their source, but just they are not doing something to expand their company or something like that. So it's happening like that. Okay. Is there any network issue? Okay. So it's happening like that. So now what we can do in that? इंडिया में क्या होता है, इंडिया में है ना टैक्स रिडक्शन से कुछ नहीं होगा. पीपल को है ना कंजम्पशन के लिए बूस्ट भी तो करना है. लाइक इफ आई एम रिड्यूसिंग द टैक्स, then there must be a source. There must be a source by which what happens, that consumption also increases. If consumption is not increasing, then how will like have reduced the tax? Companies are just doing the test services, like leakages are happening and not injection. Injection is not happening for the society. So by, if I'm having that leakage, so I should inject something, and which can happen by increasing the consumption. Means people should be ready to consume that much. Now your question might be like that Chelsea already इतना तो consumption है. Almost if someone is telling me COVID also and all this time also India has its consumption, like they have that steady consumption. इतना तो चाहिए. They have that steady consumption, but I'm not talking about that. You might be surprised by listening to me or something like that, but India ka consumption level is quite lower than like foreign country or already developed country. Although we are having this much of the population, then also our consumption is low. Now consumption is low in the terms of we are not like, we are not ready to purchase like luxury goods and all. Their consumption is also low. What we are purchasing or what we are consuming is our basic needs. Basic needs only we are purchasing and not something else. Means we don't have that much of the consumption in the other sectors. Okay, so there should be like that, some commitment should be there. There's some surety should be there, so that only we can just reduce that taxation wala portion. And another thing is there, what we can do is, जैसे कोई न्यू कंपनी आता है, कुछ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी आता है, we can just give incentives, like instead of paying for 25.87%, means please pay at the rate of 15%. We can just motivate them. We can motivate them, let you pay for 15%. Now someone might be saying that yeah, there is something like SEZ units and all, they are having that exemption, means they are paying at the lower rate, but it's an exception. Like any new in any new manufacturing unit or something is developing, we can do that. And also what we can do is we can just attract the foreign companies. We can attract foreign companies by lowering certain tax amount or something like that, and by putting them like there might be a certain locking period, that by this time you can't take that amount. You can't just take that amount to your country or something like that, by putting that. So it might happen that we are having like we might have certain things, means we can have our manufacturing unit at also boost. Another thing is service sectors. अभी Chelsea कुछ mechanism वगैरह बनाया, or I've talked about additional depreciation and all. We can just give that to the manufacturing company. But what about service sector? We have given like we are giving exemptions for the agriculture sector. We are reducing tax rate for the manufacturing sector. We are providing them with extra incentives like depreciations and all. But what about service sectors? Service sector should also get certain incentives, like they are nowadays in the modern economy or something like that. Modern economy, what happens is service sector is playing a bigger role. Now the scenario is going to change, wherein अभी तक जो था agriculture sector is was at the first. It might happen after 20 years or 10 to 20 years. It might happen that service sector take that position. Yani what I mean to say is 60% of the economy will be like covered with the service sectors only. So there should be certain incentives for the service sector also. So that only we can just reduce that taxation wala portion.
Just wait for a few minutes. Hello. 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 Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Radhika, you are audible.
Chelsea is joining. She's having some internet issues.
Okay, Radhika.
Chelsea, you there now?
Yeah, I'm there. Sorry for the trouble.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. So now it's about what do you and me. What do you mean by the international taxation? So international taxation is the study or the determination of the tax on a person or a business subject to tax laws of the different countries. Means what happens here is like we are just determining the tax on a person or something like that by just saying to the tax laws of the different countries or the international aspect of an individual country's tax laws as the case may be. Okay, so now as we are in a generation, means as we are moving towards the digital economy. So what happens is in the digital economy mainly refers to an economy that is based on the digital computing technologies. Although we have increasingly perceived this is as conducting the business through markets based on the internet. Means we are using the internet, we are using World Wide Web, www, and all that. And by that we are just having our business, and by that only now we are conducting our economy. Means we are just boosting our economy. So this is also refers to as another words for that are internet economy, new economy, or the web economy. Okay, so we should have like certain laws, or we should amend the laws wherein digital companies who are right now, they are not in the virtue area of the tax net. There should be amendment of the laws in such a way that digital companies are also coming in the virtue of the tax net. For example, Amazon, they are having their cloud base in the foreign countries and not in the India. So what happens in the India? They just say that we don't have our place of origin in the India, so why should we pay for the tax? So it's something like that. So now what should happen is something like that, that there should be a certain mechanism by which they are also coming in the tax net. So how can we have that? So we can just have some market equalization levy. We can have that, or we can have a mechanism wherein means if you are having a this much of transaction in the India, then you are liable to pay some taxes to the India also, because consumers are of India only. only means the thing is happening through the cloud base, it doesn't mean that you are not having that. Means there should be certain mechanism should be developed in such a way that they also fall in the tax levy or something like that. And yeah, the policy makers are right now working on that. And they means I there are certain things, there are certain articles by prominent policymakers and all, wherein it might happen that after 2 to 3 years, they might be also coming in the virtue of the tax rate. Okay. Now, transactions with the tax haven countries. Tax haven countries are the such countries wherein a jurisdiction offers only minimal tax liabilities to the foreign individuals or the businesses. Like now, there are certain countries like Bermuda, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Mauritius, Cayman Island, and all. They are like tax evaders. You can see it positively, or you can see it like, yeah, you can just see it like positively, or you can have like a negative view like that. So yeah, it's there. Yeah, Radhika.
Yes, Chelsea, continue.
Yeah. So what are the benefits the tax haven countries provide? Say for Bermuda, there is 0% tax rate, no personal income taxes there. Netherlands, it's the World Fortune 500, and they just attract businesses. They just have that tax incentive cost and all, by which they are having like, they just provide so much of the relaxation to the companies who are going there. Luxembourg, tax incentives and the 0%. Cayman Island, no personal tax income, no capital gain, no payroll tax, no corporate tax, nothing is there. So now what India should do that? You and each and every company who are dealing with these countries or the tax haven companies, we should scrutinize them in detail, because they are only one. They are the one who are just like, they are just getting away from getting rid of all the taxes by doing certain malpractice or something like that, or by just covering their accounts in such a way that we just are not able to see the loopholes, but there are loopholes in that also. So India should do, means at every time when IT returns or something are there, income tax authorities can scrutinize that very minutely. So we will be able to generate or receive more taxes by way of that. Now, another thing is we should also give incentives to the domestic companies. Domestic companies, I mean, yeah, so incentives to the domestic companies. So whenever retailers or businesses, whenever they are purchasing goods from the domestic companies only, they should be given incentives. For example, China and USA, what they do is they just promote their own culture. Yeah. So now what happened is India is also going for vocal for local, but somewhere or the other it is just like for the quote or something like that. We are just saying vocal for local, but in the real sense, big companies don't promote them. They seriously, what they do is they are like, thing is that, means I'm not saying that domestic companies or the like small units are not promoted, but what happens is that somewhere or the other their cost structure is affected by that, because the small industries are all, they are mainly labor intensive and not capital intensive, so they are charging more price. So like big companies, if they're purchasing from that one, so their overall cost will increase and all that, so there might be an issue with the profit margin and all. So what they do, they just buy something from the domestic one and other they import or something like that. So what government can give in the as a way of policy or something like that, they should be given some additional incentives so that they are prompt, means they are just motivated to buy from the domestic companies only. So okay. Okay, so here is like something all I need to tell you about. So yeah, there is a thing, and also we can have a like slab rate, means we can have just small changes in the slab rate. So what government has recently done in the like Feb 2020 budget, they'll just have that slab rate wherein they are just not giving exemption, and instead of that they are giving means they have changed the tax structure. So it's a good step. It's not only about that India is only facing this revival of the economy. To be very, these all are things which I've told you about. Like we can have this, we can have this. So these are the things which I've told that we might have this. It means that India is going forward with a good. But we can. These are the additional points upon which we can think upon. अभी तो इंडिया अच्छा ही कर रहा है, but these all are the additional points upon which India can think upon, and they can have like अभी जितना भी हम कर रहे हैं progress, we can have more progress than that. Okay, so here I'm done with myself. So yeah, if you are having any doubts, you can ask me, or any questions if you want then. Okay, over to you, Radhika.
Thank you so much, Chelsea, for such an interesting session. Now I would request the mentor, CA Sagar Shah sir, to give us some insights for this topic. Over to you, sir. Sir, are you there?
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks Radhika, and thanks Chelsea. You have almost covered. Chelsea has covered almost entire agendas, and as well as she has covered the each and every pinpoints which the Indian government as well as any developing economy wants to develop in a way to sustain their economy. So I will just give some brief idea on top of that. So how why these developing economies are facing the issue. See what happens that many of the companies are for example, Google or Amazon or Apple. Okay, these guys have been from the developed economy like US. So now if they want to go outside US, they have a very strong power with them. So for example, when Apple wants to set up their developing center, they have get in touch with the dialogue with the Irish government. So there they have so much power that they ask they get the 0% tax rate also, particularly applicable for their venture if they provide a certain minimum threshold of employment in Ireland, because that is favorable to Ireland as well, because many of their citizens are getting employed by Amazon, the Apple. And for Apple also, it is a kind of a European center location, and they are getting a very good tax benefit as well. So now this kind of further this kind of the companies are really virtual. So basically, you cannot trace them where they are particularly located, physically located, vis-a-vis a traditional model. In our traditional economy, we can really find out where the footholds and where the physical location of that company is, so that we can very well track those companies, and the government can tax them. But now here, the digital economy, it is said that it's an economy in itself. You cannot particularly ring fence how you want to allocate each and every transaction, how you want to restrict the entry of the transaction, or you want to restrict the taxation of the transaction, because it's really evolving, and many of the countries are really first time witnessing this kind of the heavy usage of digital technology in each and every life. So for example, Alibaba is sitting in China, and they are still selling the goods in India. They are earning the income from India, but still they are not paying any taxes in India. So that kind of the situation, what happens that the domestic business, they are getting away from. So for example, if I'm buying a mobile phone from a local shop, okay, then that local shop would pay the tax anyways because it is going to make the profit. But now here what is happening is that since I'm getting a cheaper goods, I would be buying those goods from Alibaba.com, or earlier it was eBay. So their cloud is outside India. So if I buy the goods from them, they are not required to pay tax in India because they are virtually located outside India. So that's why the Indian government is losing the tax revenue. And since the consumption is India, so now the taxation, the tax system should be evolved in a way that consumption related nexus should be proved. So now, if you guys are aware of OECD, before 5 or I guess 7 years, they have started a project called BAPS, which is called Base Erosion and Profit Shifting. So you guys, so someone if is interested in international tax should definitely go through the 15 action plan reports which OECD has suggested. So once those 15 action plans would be implemented in future, it will take almost still next 2 to 5 years. But when it got implemented thoroughly, then I guess the international tax issue will get settled, so that each and every country will get their fair share of tax. Right now, what is happening is that, for example, if someone wants to evade the tax, what planning they are trying to make is that if, for example, manufacturer is in India, their ultimate consumption is in US. For example, I would give you some example of pharmaceutical company. Their cost of manufacturing in India is 100 rupees. Their ultimate consumption, the customer is located in US. The market price of this good is 1,000 rupees. So ultimately the group as a whole are going to make a 900 rupees of profit. But what these guys try to do is that if they simply sell the good from India to US, they have to pay the tax on this 900 rupees. So instead of that, what they try to do is that they set up an intermediate company in tax haven, for example, Dubai. So they will, it would be their group company only, since Dubai does not have any taxes. Dubai does not have any taxes. What they try to do is that Indian company will sell this good, invoice this good at 110 rupees to Dubai entity, while ship the good directly to US entity. And Dubai entity will invoice the goods to US entity at a 980 rupees. So the profit between 980 and 110 is being parked in Dubai area, which is tax haven. So ultimately India is getting a tax on 10 rupees, US on 20 rupees. Instead of that, entire supply chain, the margin was almost 900 rupees. The leakage is as high as 870 rupees. So that's what this kind of the tax evasion planning being undertaken by the many of the multinational companies. So countries have evolved the laws how to tackle this kind of situation. So for that, there is a transfer pricing regulations being implemented way back in 2001 and 2 in India. So that is one of the regulation which can tackle, which is trying to tackle those kind of the situation, so that no company is trying to evade the taxes by managing their intercompany transfer pricing. Second is that earlier what used to happen is that you used to see only the Indian company's margin. For example, if I am selling the goods at 120 rupees, and if I'm making a margin of 20 rupees, 20%, right? The Indian comparable companies are generally making a margin of 10 to 15%. So I would try to say that, okay, I'm making the margin more than the Indian companies, and that's why the transaction is at arm's length price. And so the Indian tax authority might not have to adjudicate anything. So they don't have any say on this particular. Still, now the laws have evolved. Now they want to see the margin on the entire supply chain. They want to see what is the ultimate margin being earned by the group in the entire supply chain. That is the goods being manufactured in India to the goods sold in US. So they want to know the entire supply chain. And now if they get something on paper that group has parked the profit of 870 rupees in Dubai entity, they will ask for the justification that why Dubai entity is being remunerated so high. And if those if you don't have any rationale behind allocating such a high profit to Dubai entity, then this profit would ultimately get adjusted in the Indian income. So the law has evolved. Now the tax authorities have evolved. So they are trying to take very aggressive steps against those who are taking this kind of illegitimate plannings. So the transfer pricing law has really helped to curb this kind of the tax evasion. Second is the POEM regulation, which is at a very initial stages in India, place of effective management. So you guys will be studying on in your studies. So what happens in place of effective management regulation, that if you are sitting in India, you have some company outside India, then if you are making the decisions, key and operational decisions of that company sitting in India, then that company would be considered as a domestic company, and you have to pay 40% tax on the profit earned by that the overseas company. And so ultimately what happens that, for example, I am sitting in India, I have a company outside India in US. That company has made a profit of, for example, 100 crores. Okay, so they on that they are going to pay the profit in US at 30%. And if the POEM regulation, the POEM of the US company is being triggered in India, because I am sitting in India, I am taking all the decisions of that US company, then Indian government, Indian tax authority would argue that this US company is to be considered as an Indian domestic company because of its POEM situated in India. And on being decided of the US company's POEM in India, I have to pay 40% tax of the US company's profit in India. So ultimately, what happens that in 100 crores, I'm paying a 30% tax in US, that is 30 crore gone, and I have to again pay the 40 crores tax in India. So ultimately, out of the 100 crores, the 70 crore is gone. So, and for the 30 crores, the taxes you have paid in US, you would not get any tax credit as well in India. So the POEM regulation will also take care of some kind of this kind of the planning. Then for domestic front, while everyone knows that last year already the finance minister has reduced the corporate tax rate for new manufacturing setup companies to almost 15%, and plus applicable surcharge and education fees. So that rate is quite reasonable, and I don't think so that we can go even lower to those rates. But those are the kind of the rates only applicable to new manufacturing setup. And service sector is still being not compensated to any kind of the tax relief. Sorry. So tax authority should come up with some incentive plans wherein the service sector should also be compensated, so that ultimately India should be an export service powerhouse, because we have a talent situated in India, and there is so much since everyone knows that for IT outsourcing, India is the number one, right? So those kind of the services which are getting export remuneration only. So ultimately, India is getting the benefit of the dollar revenue. So on that front, Indian government should come up with some plans so that more and more entrepreneurs and startups are encouraged to set up their venture in India only, so they don't have to go outside India just looking for any incentive or lower tax rates. So that's what I think that the government should look upon to really attract the service sector also. Then fourth is that see the consumers like salaried persons. Salaried persons are not really getting any benefits apart from those HRAs or LTAs. So there should be some compensation additionally given to them in the form of some higher thresholds, higher slab rates, applicable to salaried people compared to other self-employed people, because in self-employed people you can anyways have some kind of expenses deductible against your total income, whereas the salaried person, he has to pay the income tax on its entire income, and he does not get any deduction of the tax expenses. So for to attract the salaried persons, and there should be some mechanism so that ultimately the consumption in India goes up. Because see what happens that if they lower the tax rate of the ultimate salaried persons, which is almost large population in India, so ultimately what happens that if they lower the tax rates of those salaried persons, their tax flows, so their cash flows get increased. So for example, earlier they are earning 100 rupees, they were paying a tax of 25 rupees. So their net cash on hand was 75 rupees. Now, if their tax rate got reduced to 15, so they will have an additional cash of 10 rupees on their hand, and that they can really invest invest or use for their consumption also. So ultimately that money will get circulated again back in the economy, and it will generate the profit for the other ventures also. So ultimately the Indian government will get additional the tax collection, or because of the increase in consumption. So ultimately government has to think upon those lines, that how to increase the consumption so that ultimately it will lead to the increase in tax collection also. And so this is apart from the salaried people, and even they should be given some incentive wherein that if the domestic company if purchase the plant and machinery or goods or whatever the equipments are, if they purchase from the domestic company which is situated in India, manufacturing is in India, and everything happens in India, then they will get additional incentive, additional deduction of their expenditure, like we have it for additional depreciation for manufacturing concerns. So that see ultimately if they have been given the additional deduction, what happens that the many of the companies would select to go for the domestic suppliers instead of the overseas suppliers. So for example, if I want to buy the plant and machinery, if I want to buy the plant and machinery at for example, it's available in India as well as outside India. It's a 1 crore rupees of plant and machinery. Under Section 37(1), I would get anyways the 1 crore rupees of so depreciation. I would get it, but if it have been the revenue expenditure, I'm just assuming it have been some revenue kind of a expenditure. So I would get the 1 crore deduction if I buy from India or outside India. But now there should be some mechanism wherein if I buy this particular goods or avail these services from the domestic companies, then I would be given additional 10 lakh or 20 lakh. So 10% or 20% of this total spend, you would get the additional deduction. So what will happen that I would also be inclined to go towards the domestic companies, so that, see, ultimately it's kind of our Prime Minister's motto. It's vocal for local and local for vocal. So basically that we have to ultimately fulfill, and we have to make certain policies to get it on implementation stage. So that's what I should think, that there should be some mechanism, and there they can bring up some additional streams of revenue, like estate duty. So if you guys are aware of, till 1985 in India there was an estate duty. So what happens in estate duty, when someone dies and if they inherit some properties to the next generation. So for example, I have a property of 100 crores. If I dies without making a will or with making a will, and if my entire property got evolved to my son or daughter, then they would have to pay the estate duty on the total estate received from their deceased father. And the duty was as high as 85%. So you would be surprised, yes. So the person who is receiving the assets have to really pay the estate duty of 85 crore just just because he has been inherited with 100 crores of property. So that got abolished in 1985. And since from last 2 to 3 years, it has been talks that it is going to be reintroduced. And in US and UK, currently still there is an estate duty. So it's a kind of a estate duty wherein you want to really tax the top class people. So you would be given the threshold. For example, you would be given a threshold of, for example, 50 crore rupees or 10 crore, 25 crore, 50 crore, whatever amount is. Below that, if you are giving any property to your next generation, you would not be taxed. But once your estate, the total value of all your assets crosses 10 crores or 50 crores, the estate duty would be applicable. So those kind of the tax revenue should be introduced so that the government can collect the tax from the rich community, and it can use the money for the welfare of the poor. Yeah. So I guess these are some of my thoughts, that ultimately government would sooner or later will introduce this kind of the developments, because they have also been hit by the pandemic, and their tax revenue also gets lowered because of the lower in consumption as well as manufacturing. So ultimately they will come out. I guess this budget, the budget which we are going to be witnessed in 2021, would be the most interesting one, because it could be the most reformative budget one can expect, because they have to really provide the strong pillar, strong support to the economy. So for that, even if they are going for the budget deficit higher than the expected market deficit rates, they should go and they should really get the India back on the growth path. Yes. So that was my thought. I guess, Radhika, so if anyone has a question or any kind of clarification they want.
Do anyone have any other questions to ask? Okay, sir, I think there is no question on the floor, so we'll wrap up the session.
Sure,
I
sure.
really like to thank you, sir, for giving such practical insights on the topic. I am sure that many of us were not knowing all these facts earlier. Thanks for making us all aware. Thank you, Chelsea, and thank you so much, sir, that you joined the session, spared your time, and make us all understand the topic. And I would like to thank all the participants for joining the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.